Hi guys, so this is the video going over the initial rigging we've done in class this week. This is just laying in the initial joints, doing the IK and doing the reverse lock joints for the feet. Cool, so we'll start off by sectioning out our model into two layer groups. Down here in the top, in the bottom right, we've got our layer display. And like I said in class, these don't work like Photoshop layers work. These are just basically things that we put into groups to turn them off and on so we can see them. So I'm just going to select all my fur planes and then just hit this bottom right button here, and then I can name that fur and give it a colour if I want to, so I'll give that red. So now all my fur related to that layer is now red, and then for my body I'll add one, and then I'll name my body and give that a colour of green, like that. So I can turn off my fur because I don't need to interact with that anymore, at least for now. And then I'm going to click the third icon twice should I say, to just get it referenced. And reference means we can't interact with it anymore. Excuse me. So now I'm going to start rigging. So I'm going to go directly into side view, and I'm going to make sure that this button's turned on here. This is the X-ray joints tool, and that means when we lay in our joints, our geometry is not getting in the way. I'm going to change my shelf at the top to rigging. There we go. And then I'm going to change my menu setup from probably modeling to rigging. So then I've got this set of menus. Okay. So, like I've said in class, what we need to do first is lay in our very first root joint. This is the joint where everything is built from. And we take this into where the main rotation is for any character. So generally, these start from the hips, especially for like biped characters like us. It always starts off from the hips. So I'm going to go up to this key here to start off my placing it in my rig, my joints I should say. I'm going to place my first joint about here. Okay. And then I'm just going to start laying in my joints for the leg. So I'm going to put in where my pelvis joint would be, down to where my knee would be, and then back here. And then I'm going to place this right at where the paw would start, so there's a really nice angle for us to rotate our paw around. And the last one I'm going to place in is I'm going to actually hold X to do this. I'm going to place mine in right on the bottom of the floor, right in front of the foot like that. So I'm holding X to lay that in. And if we open up our outliner, which is this button here, we've now got, I'll have to set that back to side view, we've now got our joint cluster we've just brought in here. So remember, we have to name these as we go along just to kind of expedite the process. So joint one, that's root. I'm going to put root joint. Next one underneath that, I'm going to call this my left pelvis joint, and then knee joint. I'm naming these after what they would relate to on a human character, so you know, you might name these differently to help you understand what part they relate to, but for me, just relating it back to a human form helps me keep track of stuff. So this one is going to be my heel joint. This one's going to be my toe joint, and my toe tip joint, like that. Because this one is at the very end of the strip, so I'm going to call that a tip. So now I can go back up to my root joint. I can click my insert joint tool again and click on the very first root joint. And by doing that, we've now selected that joint to start building off. So I'm going to start laying in my spine now. And one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to properly trace the curvature of the back. I want to keep this kind of flat going up to here. and I'm just going to place 4 joints in from the pelvis up to the shoulder section. So that should be okay. So now that's my spine made. From here, I'm now going to bring it down and make where my clavicle wood should be. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete everything, and I'm going to just redo that spine because that wasn't going far enough. So that's better. I'm going to lay in my clavicle, and then I'm going to lay in a joint here, about there. So this is where the actual arm front leg is going to start rotating from. I'm going to put one about here. This is where the shoulder is going to be rotating from. One back here. Obviously that's going to take care of the rotation here. And then just like at the back of the foot, I'm going to place one right in the middle of where the paw is, and then hold an X, snap one to the grid just in front of the paw, like that. So now we've got that new set of joints made. So that's going to take me from this one here. So I'm going to name these one spine 01. So because these aren't related to any side, I can just call these spine 01 joint. And then just go down the line. There we go. And then underneath there, we're going to start naming our arms, our arm sections. So this one first going to be my clavicle, and of course this is going to be on the left side of my model. So it's going to the left clavicle. And what the clavicle does, it allows us to control movement inside the neck area. Because if we just put a joint right from the center here to the shoulder, then we're limited in our movement. But having that in there, we can actually move these front legs up a little bit and give a much more realistic movement and posing potential. I thoroughly advise people actually studying human and animal anatomy. I'm just going to name this first joint arm, shoulder. No, I'll keep that as arm, because this one is before the arm, so yeah. This next one I'll call shoulder. And elbow. So let's bring that out a little bit. This one I'm going to call paw. And then paw tip. Yeah. So that's all now the joints laid in for our back legs and our front. So now I'm going to start laying in the geometry that's going to control the general movement of the head, movement of the ears, movement of the mouth, and movement of the eyes. So I'm going to go with my joint tool selected, click on that joint there, and then I'm just going to start building off. So I'm going to build the first one is going to be the midpoint of my neck, and then it's going to be the bottom of my head. Now in class I mentioned that this should be placed all the way at the back of the geometry, like all the way at the back of the neck, because then the rotation would be too extreme for the neck and you'd get real stretching on the front of your neck or under your jaw. So we want to place that in more or less the very, very center of the vertebrae which connects to your skull, so that the rotation is quite natural. If you place it too far back, you get this really ugly pulling effect, which happens a lot in like the old 90s games, especially games like Metal Gear. They didn't really place the joints in correctly in the beginning, and then they did in the future. So with that one in there, I'm going to place one more just at the very top of the head, like that. So now I'm going to press up. So I'm not deselecting anything. I'm going to press up to go back one joint. So now I'm building off this joint. and I'm going to start laying in the geometry for my jaw. So the first one I'm going to lay in would be for the very back of the jaw, and this control would be used to do big movements of the jaw. So if this was to make a loud noise or like a roar, you'd have to have an extreme movement in the jaw, and this is the control we'd use for that. The next one would be the general jaw control. So this is one we'd use for eating, muttering, making any like calming noises or anything like that. So that would have very minor motions. And then the end of it, we just need to have one on the very end, like that. So that's placing on the front of the jaw. So then click up until, and I'm just pressing up on the keyboard there, because I just want to get back to that joint there. And then I'm going to place in my eyes. Now what I want to do, what I want to try and do, is just get it for now in the centre of the eye. Like that. Okay. So for now, that's okay. We can get that in a proper position later on. And the last one to add in would be the actual ear. And we don't want real bending control in this ear. We just want slight bending and more like rotational control on this ear. So pressing up again to go back to my first joint. I'm going to lay the base of the ear in first, using a good educated guess on where the base of the ear is. Then just place 3 going up to the tip, like that, just like that. Good. So now we need to name these. So this has now given us this stack of joints. So this first one is my neck joint. Next one down the line will be my head joint. Then the one at the very top of the head, I'm going to call head top, because it's the top of the head. And we're going to use that one in conjunction with another control to give us really nice head control. So there it's going to be my jaw 1 joint, because it's the first one in the chain. And my jaw 02, because it's the second in the chain. And then we can either call this jaw tip or jaw 03. I'm going to call this jaw 03, just because. And then I'm going to go down to my eye. Oh, well, this one's going to be my left eye joint, so because we're going to use 2 of them. So my left eye joint. And then this is my left ear. Ear 01, because it's the first in the chain joint. Left ear 02 joint, it's the second in the chain, and so on until I'll probably call this top of the ear tip. There you go. So now that's most of our joints laid in for now. We've just got to actually lay in our tail. So I'm going to go click on my insert joint tool again. And I'm going to click on my root joint right back here, like that. So now I've got my root joint selected. All the joints are going to get built off that. So the first one I'm going to place in is going to be where the tail would start rotating from on the body. And then I'm going to place 4 more joints going up to the very tip, because we don't have too many, because too many will give us quite ugly rotation, and too few will give us too stiff a tail. So I want to have 4 in there, just to give me a nice equal rotation. And again, I'm keeping these equal going down. I'm not going to clump 2 together and then have a big gap. I'm going to keep everything as equal as possible. Like that. And then I can go name those. Just give my tail base. That's the base of my tail. Or even just keep it simple, tail 01, because the first in the chain. Joint. And then just to speed that up, I can go copy and paste those in and just change the number as I go down, except I'm going to call the one at the end tail tip. Like that. Cool. So now that's all our joint placement laid in for now, which is very good, and we've named everything accordingly. Oh, I can see a lowercase l there, so whenever we're naming anything for a side it's going to be on, we always have to make sure that it's uppercase. Okay, so everything's looking okie dokie, cool. So if I go to perspective view and I just turn off my body like that, we're going to see that all the joints are laid in, but because we've been building it from the side view, which we should do, everything's flat against the world like that, which looks kind of weird. So we want to start moving these out and line them up with the points of the body. So just like always, I'm going to start with the back leg first, because I've got to do some rotation on that, but I'm not going to be using my normal rotation tool like this. I'm not going to be using that. I'm going to be using a different tool to help me maintain some information for later on. So I'm going to bring my body back. Ooh, body back. And like I said, I'm going to start off with the back legs, and I'm just going to grab the very first, so my pelvis joint, because remember the parent controls the children, and as I go down like that, but for now I just want to control this parent joint here, and using my best guess, my best influence guess, I'm going to use my transition tool, my translation tool, my move tool, and just move it over. So I'm finding this in the rotation position of the leg, so about there, like that. Now I'm not going to. I need to rotate it into place, because as you can see, our back legs kind of face off a little bit, which is perfectly fine. But I'm not going to just rotate these into place like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my attributes editor, which is this one here. And in here, with this joint selected, I've got my transform attributes, and then underneath this, I've got my joint attributes. And the one I'm going to change is down here in joint orientation, and it's going to be the first box. Well, at least for me, it should be for you as well, but for me, it's going to be the first box, the x-axis orientation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Control, and I'm going to middle mouse drag inside this box here. And as you can see there, as I scrub left and right, I'm actually rotating my leg. And what I want to do is a combination of movement and joint orient using this, and just make this fit the leg a bit better. So, okay, and then using the y-axis, I'm just going to rotate it a little bit so it's a bit flayed off like that. Oop. And then use the joint orientation again just to move it into place like that. Perfect. So the leg itself is just flowing down the center of this, and I used the x-axis, so holding Control and middle mouse, dragging inside that box changes the attributes, and that's the position I want for that. Now for the front leg, it's going to be pretty straight because the front leg's face straight, so I don't have to worry about that. But what I want to do is go from the clavicle, and the first thing is just move it to the side. So we've got this, we will have, when we mirror over, we have a V shape here. So then I'm going to bring my arm joint, and I'm just going to move it over until everything lines up in the middle like that. Perfect. Perfect. And that's it for the front leg. For the ear, I can go to the front view and I can just move that into place so it's about in the center of the massa ear like there. And then using that Control and middle mouse dragging inside one of these joint orientation boxes, I can, so it's not that one, it's probably that one. So in the y-axis for me, I'm just rotating it so it's just flowing with the ear like that. So I'm not actually using this, I'm not using this at all, I'm using these joint orientations. but I can, and I'm only moving the very first one of the group. So for the back leg I was moving that one and only that one. For the front leg, yeah, I moved the clavicle out a little bit and then I moved the arm, but for the rest of this structure I only ever move this top joint. For the ear, I only move this joint, for the first one in the chain, I only ever move that one, and then just use the joint orientation to move it into place. And then I'll do the same for the eye. Now, the eye is going to be a bit different, because I want the eye to be as perfectly in the center of this sphere as possible. So with my translation tool selected, just my normal move tool, I'm going to hold V. Normally that will be used for our snap to vertex, but in this instance, snapping to vertex also works with joints. So I want to snap just using these these arrows. So I'm not actually grabbing the center, I'm just grabbing the arrow. I'm going to snap that to the center of the eye as much as I can, like that. And then from the side I can do the same as well. So the center of my eye here is going to be in line here. And let's snap that back. There we go. So now when I actually go and rotate my eye later on, the eye will rotate perfectly like a sphere, and I'm not going to get like uneven rotations in there. Okay, so that looks like everything is a-okay. Our eye is off to one side, our ear is off to one side, our arms and legs, or our legs in general, are positioned correctly. So now it's time to mirror this over so that obviously we're going to mirror the joints over, but what we can do as well at the same time is change a couple of parameters so that we're optimizing what we're mirroring over, and we're not having to go through and rename everything as well. So making sure that rigging is selected in this top menu, I'm going to go up to skeleton and then mirror joints. If I just open that option box, now I still have my settings applied here, but if I reset the tool, this is probably what you're going to have given to you. We want to mirror across the Y and the Z axis, because the Y axis we want to mirror across this way, and we want to mirror across the Z axis that way. And I'm going to go orientation, because for the most part that's going to maintain a lot of these joint orientations, which we will have to fix later on, but not as much. So I'm going to change that to orientation in mirror function. Now in search for, I'm going to put capital L underscore, and then the replace with, I'm going to put capital R underscore. So it's going to go through, look at our joints, and then anything that it sees is called L underscore this, it's going to replace that with R underscore this. So then I don't have to go renaming, don't have to go through and rename everything later on. So I'm going to go through and just find the very first joint in a stack like that. So I'm not selecting this one or that one, I'm just selecting this top one. I can only do one at a time as well. I'm going to hit apply, and then that gets mirrored over. So in the case of the front leg, I'm going to grab the clavicle, because if I just grab this one, then it's going to mirror like that, and that's not good. So I want to mirror across this joint here, like that. There we go. Do the same for the eye, like that. Now what happens with me sometimes with this is this ear gets mirrored across, but this gets maintained and it's kind of off to one side. So in this case it doesn't. But if you bring in an ear which looks like that, if you mirror across and your ear turns out to be like that, what you need to do is in your mirror joint options, you need to just change mirror functions to behavior, and then that'll flip it across. You do have to do a little bit of tweaking later on, but it's not bad. So that's mirrored, and then that should be everything. So if you look now, looking at our outliner, we've got a couple of new boxes, and they've all been replaced with R underscore all the way through. Cool. So if we just bring our body back, everything should fit in nicely. Nice, good, nice, good. Cool. So I'm going to stop this video here for now, and then the next video we're going to do is going to be quite a short one. It's just going to be our axis orientation joint. So if everyone remembers that from class, It's a short but a bit of an annoying step, but we have to do it. Okay? Cool. See you in the next video.